Welcome everybody to my acrylic painting tutorial. My name is Erin. I'm here live on Twitch teaching everybody how to paint this painting right beside me, step by step. You have this image here, and I'll also be showing you a blank canvas that I actually paint along with you using right over here. Original painting, new painting. So the idea is this will take about maybe 2-ish hours for me to go through. I'll kind of instruct one step at a time, give a little bit of time for you to paint along live with me. If you're here on Twitch with me, feel free to ask questions as I go along. If you need me to repeat anything, clarify, demonstrate, just let me know and I'm happy to pause to do that for you. Otherwise, we'll just be kind of rolling through it and completing a painting all together. With that said, if you're ever interested in painting along with me but changing things up at all, or maybe just doing your own completely different design, that's all very welcome as well. My goal with these toots, that I call them tutorials toots, is just to inspire people to paint. So even if you're not painting exactly what I made today, that's totally fine with me. Use this as a time to just, you know, get a little artistic or crafty, and you can watch along, and I'll keep you company while you do it. In terms of supplies that I use, I always keep them the same, but I'll tell you again what I use just in case you're maybe new today. Let me get my brushes, for example. So I always stick to only 3 different paintbrushes just to make everything nice and simple and easy. I use this, oh, it's yellow, look at that. Yellow from our Halloween costume earlier this week. I have a large flat brush, I have a medium round brush, and a small round brush. Flat brushes are just all the bristles kind of lined up, and then round brushes have a little tip or a point to them, so that's the difference. You definitely don't need these exact brushes. If you have something similar or just any sort of variety of sizes and shapes, you should be totally good to go. In terms of paint colors, I always stick to 5 paint colors. I have all 3 primary colors and then black and white. So I have red, yellow, blue, I use phthalo blue specifically, and then white and black, and those are my 5. Other materials I have by me, I have some paper towel, a cup of paint water, or just regular water. It will be paint water momentarily. I'm wearing something I don't mind getting paint on, so make sure you're wearing something as well that you don't mind getting paint on, or maybe you have an apron or something to cover up, that works as well. And I think that's about it for supplies. Other things I say during the intro, I don't know. I think those are all the important parts. Yeah, let's just get right into the tutorial. Here we go. Let us begin. So I'll show the original in full size again here. Just as a little precursor before I teach the steps, this is one of 2 paintings I made for fall. I actually asked both here on Twitch and on Facebook, a couple other places, for some opinions. The votes went towards this design. I will say that some people were preferring the second design I was making. They were all commenting that they really liked this tree and the brightness within it. You can see how full it is compared to this one. So just as a heads up, I'll be teaching this exact design here. When we get to the tree, what I'm actually going to do is talk a little bit about how I achieved this as well. So for those of you who like this design, but like this tree, hopefully I'm, you know, catering to everybody here. Hopefully you can kind of combine the 2 if that's what you were hoping to do, or you can follow along with the exact design I have today. So just as a heads up, when we get to the tree, you might hear some extra little tips and tricks there, which you're welcome to follow or not. That's fine too. So to begin this painting, what I like to do is I like to kind of section out the painting in a couple main sections just to, you know, see the whole design come together right at the start here, and to save paint, honestly. I find when I don't section out the painting, I could be painting like a whole layer of light blue. It's kind of wasting the paint because then we just go over top of things. So I'm gonna section things out with you all and yeah, save the paint a little bit. So what I'm gonna start with is mixing a nice, very, very light blue, because that'll be easy to cover up with all of our elements that we have here. I'm personally going to use a nice medium round brush for this part. I'm dipping in my water, and I'm just mixing together a light blue. So I'm taking a tiny, tiny, tiny amount of blue, and I'm mixing it into a large pile of white. The goal being to keep it as light as possible, because again, this is just kind of an outline for now. We want it to be an easy to cover color. So really any light color will do, but you know, I chose blue because there's lots of blue in the painting. So I'll start just by doing a quick little I guess it's the horizon line underneath the mountains. A nice horizontal line. I would say that's about 1/3 of the way up. Ooh, maybe a little more. Let's go in between 1/2 and 1/3. So if 1/2 is here, maybe 1/3 is here, let's put the line right about here. You can see it can be a little thick. It doesn't need to be perfect at all. We're just going to be covering it up anyway. My hair looks nice today. Thank you. Thanks so much. The secret is baby powder. I shouldn't give away my secrets. Just thank you. Yeah, nice fall colors, right? That was my goal with this painting, to make some really nice, just orange fall, you know, screaming fall design. Horizontal line. I also like to map out where this little pathway is going to go in our painting. So if you see where it starts, I would say it starts about maybe 1/4 of the way across the painting. So maybe about here, 1/4 to 1/3-ish, somewhere in here. And I'm going to create 2 nice big curves for the outsides of the path. So taking the same brush in the same color, let's do a nice big curve kind of going to the right and then slowly over to the left. I'm aiming for this bottom corner area here. So my curve started a little more dramatic at the start and then kind of smoothed out, evened out on the way down. This is the medium round brush. I would say any brush you like kind of sketching with. I chose the medium round because of the little tip at the end. If I were using a flat brush, I think it would kind of get in the way a little bit more. So yeah, any like sketching brush is good. And then I'm going to do the other side of the pathway, so doing a similar shape, just kind of wider and off to the right. Nice curve going off to the right, aiming for about the bottom right corner, maybe a little bit above it. So what we should end up with is a nice big pathway that is very, very wide at the bottom where it's closest to us, and then very, very narrow at the top where it's further away from us. It'll get thinner and thinner as the distance increases. All right, I'm going to sketch out just a little squiggly line for where our bushes and greenery go. I'm not going to worry about details, just kind of starting, I would say about 2/3 up the canvas now. Just kind of wiggling down just to show myself where that foliage will go. You can see super messy, super squiggly. We're gonna dot on lots of greenery, so again, don't worry about this outline. And then lastly, I'm just gonna do a couple quick mountain shapes. I'm not worried about anything inside the mountains, I'm just trying to get the very outside edge done. So I'm going to start right around where the pathway is ending or disappearing. I'm going to start with a nice angled line coming up to the right. Maybe stopping about 3/4 of the way up-ish, but you can make your mountains as tall as you want. If you want them to like go all the way up, feel free. Mountains are big, so you can make them nice and big. And then we're gonna come down again. We're kind of making a couple triangles, right? So a nice angled line down to the right. And then before I get all the way down, maybe I'll start going up again with a second little peak. Maybe I'll make it a tiny bit higher this time. Come down again. Looks like I maybe started 1/3. So just kind of zigzagging my way up. Again, you don't have to stick to the exact number of peaks and heights that I did. I'm just trying to replicate what I did in my original. And I'll give an extra minute here just in case you want to adjust anything. This is a good time to adjust because again, it's just the base layer that we're covering up. So if you don't like anything, maybe you want to move your path a bit or try again at the mountains, feel free to do that right now in the next minute or so. We're not going to sketch out the tree, we're just going to leave that alone just in case you're wondering about the tree. So this design was actually made after I was outside a lot in the fall season. I talked about this pretty openly in my video about like painting burnout a little bit, painting design burnout for tutorials specifically. And yeah, that's what I've been going through for the past couple months. I just have been feeling like I can't figure out a nice design to teach for everybody, and that's why another reason why I haven't done a lot of toots. But yeah, this image or this design is actually based on a photo I took. For those wondering the exact location, this was in Stanley Park on the seawall, kind of coming around, I would say like the east-north side kind of. There was actually the Lionsgate Bridge back here, but I removed it just so the painting wasn't too complicated. But that's where the inspiration is from, in case anyone was wondering. Okay, we've got our little sketch done. Let's start to apply some big blobs of color, just as some base colors, which we'll add some details to later. I'm gonna switch my brush. You can see I'm switching to that large flat brush, or just any big brush you have, because I'm going to be doing the nice sky here. The sky's pretty straightforward. I don't really do anything fancy. I just make a nice light blue, and I'm going to cover everything above the mountains, above the foliage here, getting right in the crevice in between them as well. So I'm gonna dip my large flat brush into the water, mixing together blue and white. I'm just gonna make a blue that's maybe a little darker, a little more pigmented than the blue I was just using. So just adding a little extra blue to my blue and white mixture. Again, feel free to get creative. Maybe you want there to be like a sunset or something in the background. Maybe you want to make a more vibrant blue. Feel free to just add a little more blue to your mixture. But I'm sticking with a nice light blue, like a nice sky blue. Which was not in the original photo. It was a very overcast day. Typical for the area. I'm just sweeping that across my canvas, going left and right. I'm using the wide edge of the brush just to get a nice smooth stroke every time. And doing nice big strokes will also help with smoothing things out as well. The smaller strokes you do, the more you're going to be kind of picking up the paint and leaving these little markings that you see there. So instead, nice big strokes to keep it all nice and smooth and even.
Well, we have several requests, but we're going to stay up here anyway.
I always recommend as well, even though I don't follow my recommendations sometimes, I always recommend continuing this paint onto the edges here, especially while we have the color like ready to go. Much easier to just paint those edges now. If you're using a canvas like me, you can kind of wrap around to really clean up the entire design. Hi, Todd.
It's called
Welcome in. Hey, Marion. Oh, you did? Any thoughts? Thank you for watching. I didn't think so many people would check it out. Again, I really made it with a YouTube audience in mind. Because I feel like I don't chat with them too much. But I'm glad you're all enjoying it too. With my sky, I'm not trying to do a gradient or anything. If you see a gradient, it's kind of accidental, I guess, but I'm trying to use the same blue the whole way down. If you want to do a nice gradient, you could make it lighter on the way down if you want. I think that's what usually tends to happen with the sky, is it has a lighter blue at the bottom and a more vibrant blue up top. But I am trying my best to just use the same blue. If you see different blues, it's because I'm mixing more on my plate and trying to color match. And if this blue kind of goes over top of your sketch a little bit, see how it got a little messy in here? Totally fine, totally fine. That'll cover up. Again, the sectioning is more just to keep things a little cleaner and to save a little more paint. Doo-doo-doo. Yeah, Anne-Marie, welcome in. I was just gonna mention the edges. There's a command for that. Exclamation edges to yell into the chat. Don't forget! It is weird, because like I always say it, and I think I'm pretty good about it when I'm teaching, but honestly with my own personal paintings, I'm bad at that. I never curl all my colors around to the edges, and it always ruins me at the end, because then I have to go back and color match, and that's not fun. I don't know why, I just can't bring myself to do it while I'm painting. So if you're somebody who doesn't do it and you hear me say it every time you say, stop, I'm not gonna do that. I understand. I'm with you. I still think it's a good reminder, but sometimes I don't follow my own advice. Okay, and I'm just gonna take a quick second. I feel like it's a little too bright up here. I'm gonna see if I can adjust my lighting a touch. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Okay, we back. Oh, Jamie, my cat jumped. Of course. See, I told you. They can't be stopped. They want to be part of it all. Especially cats, I think. They just want to be front and center at all times. Marion says, I think it's very good for you to be open and honest with what's happening. I wanted to let you know as well. The painting I have from you has a place of honor in our house. It brings me back to a place of tranquility. That's so nice. Thank you. Yeah, I just felt good about updating people on my intentions. Like, again, I'm probably making it into a bigger deal than it is, for sure. Maybe people didn't have these questions. They're like, you're just chilling on YouTube, it's fine, do what you want. But yeah, it felt good to, again, my intentions are out there. So I'm glad you appreciated it, Marion, thank you. Anne-Marie says, did an art class this week and someone was surprised when I did the edges. Really? I wonder why. I mean, even if you're not doing the technique of using the colors on the edges, I feel like people clean up the edges in one way or another. I see a lot of artists choosing one color and cleaning it all up. Or even just like, even white paint rather than leaving it blank. Anyway, that surprises me, Anne-Marie. Were they all impressed? Were they like, ooh, that's a great idea? Yes, Marion, I as well. I make a whole day, not a whole day, but a whole session out of color matching when I have to go clean up. Nodding, nodding. Oh, the cat eats brushes too? Oh my gosh. Are you gonna post the moving in video? Oh no, I don't think so at this point. I'll teach a step and then I'll respond to that a little more, Bray. What can we do next here? Next, I think I want to focus on the water. We'll get the sky, the water, and then we'll go in with our mountains here. So if you're all done with the sky, I'm going to take the same brush I was just using. I'm going to wash it off a little bit. And I'm going to go back to a super, super light blue. So if you have any leftover sky blue that you were just using, I am now going backwards and adding a little extra white into that mixture to keep it even lighter again, to fill in this little slice here. So this is going to be our water. Just grabbing a little more paint. I'm just brushing back and forth, left and right, just doing a nice smooth surface to begin with. And then I'm going to go in to add some little ripples and kind of textures to the water after. Again, if I go on top of the path a little bit, that's okay. That's why we're doing the water first, so we can overlap later and kind of clean it up on the edge. Just fill in that nice little pizza slice right there. Same thing, edges, edges, edges. Same with this horizon line. If it's not perfectly straight, you can still make it straight with our mountains, which will be added later. Where did I end off here? Oh yeah, Vray. I don't think so. Do I even have that much more? I feel like I slotted in a fair amount of the moving footage I even have. It's all just time lapses of me like unpacking, organizing. You saw me like building a desk here, or at least like vinyling a desk, sorting brushes, and I think that's about all I had. There might be other clips of those sessions, but I don't think anything of like a lot of value. Unfortunately, I know some of us find time lapses really satisfying, and that's why I stuck them in the video. But yeah, I just don't think there's enough to make a whole video of it now. It would feel weird to be like, a year ago I did this, you know? Especially coming up to a year anniversary of moving, I feel like it would be an odd time. But I appreciate your interest in it. You can rewatch all those nice time lapses that I included. My hubby loved your poppy painting. I'm so glad! That was the one you framed, yeah? That you got, you had to go to IKEA and look around? Or at least I suggested IKEA. I don't know if that's where you ended up going. Marion says, I found the trick is to use an art book and put colors used to create a specific color so I can recreate it for when I need to. For example, 1 part color, right, 1 part color A, 2 part color B equals C. That's so smart. And you can put those colors in the book, I assume? Yeah, you put the colors in. So it's not just a reference, you're like adding to it. That is smart. And then that way it's really applicable to your paint colors and all the different pigments that you're using. Yeah, little splotchies, you got it. Okay, so on top of this very, very light blue, I want to make this look more like water rather than sky, right? So I'm going to now switch brushes again. You could use the same brush technically, but I prefer this one, the nice medium round one again. And I'm just going to use a medium to dark blue, I would say, and I'm just going to add some quick little ripples. Not concentrating too much on the water, just something a little extra. So I'm grabbing the medium round brush, mixing blue paint in with maybe a little bit of white. See how it lightens up just a little bit? It's still pretty dark, but not the darkest. I'm gonna put that on my brush. I'm going to use the tip of the brush just nice and light on the canvas, so trying not to use a lot of pressure. Just sweeping across left and right a little bit. So by using less pressure, you'll get thinner lines. The more pressure you use, the more the lines will thicken up. So at least start with the nice thin lines, then maybe you can thicken them as you go if you want to make them a little more prominent. Just reloading my brush with paint, brushing a little left and right. And ripples are wavy, right? So if your lines aren't perfectly horizontal, perfectly straight, that's kind of the point. We want them to be a little wiggly here and there, a little up and down. And you can see I'm just dispersing them all around. I'm starting some on the left, starting some on the right, in the middle, kind of stacking them all up on top of each other. While also still, of course, leaving some spaces to see the original color. Oh yeah, and a palette cover works. Yeah, I have yet to try out the wet palette. I've heard that suggested so many times, and I don't know, I just refuse to use anything other than my paper plate, volcano plate. Sometimes I feel like that would unlock a whole new way of painting for me, but I just can't do it. I can't ditch the volcano plate. It wouldn't be right. Okay, I think that's enough ripples for me. You can, again, you can fill it up as much or as little as you want. Maybe I'll do a couple more, just a couple, right after I said I was done. Just like thickening some up just to get them a little darker, or even using a darker blue if I want. Okay, I stop. Don't go overboard. Rally, hey! Oh, the run is Sunday, it's not done yet. Ah! I'll update everybody on Sunday on Discord and or my stream after, I guess, on Tuesday. Yeah, 2 days away, 2 days away. 1.5 days. It's early in the morning too, which I'm not looking forward to. Yes, it's a black IKEA frame. It looks fab against the white and gray. Yeah, I'm sure it does, especially with that design. And the red popping still. Yeah, I'm glad you went with something neutral. I think that was a good call. Yeah, it's if you're talking about the volcano plate, I'll give everyone a visual update here. Here's what I'm painting on, still. Almost 3 years old now. It's reaching new heights. I feel like it kind of grew all at once. I feel like it took forever to get this thick, and then it's just right on top. So yeah, instead of a nice flat paint palette that stays wet or whatever, I'm just using dried acrylic paint on a plate. Very good, very solid. Highly recommend. I'll give another quick minute in case anyone's still fiddling with the water. I think I'll do the mountains next, and we'll work our way around with the other elements. Yeah, and it's interesting too, Marion, because I've been watching more videos about like mixing paints and prepping them properly. And I'm like, I could never do that on this. People using their palette knives and putting nice little paint splotches so it's all ready to go before they start painting. And I'm just like, I'll just figure it out as I go. I'll start with 2 colors and then add more if I want. I can't really prep as much on this surface. But it's my choice, it's my fault. I'll live with it for the sake of the volcano plate growing. I just want it to reach a height that's a little higher than my old one, that's all. And then maybe he'll retire. Hey Zyko! Oh, you're okay, don't worry, please. we're in the middle of the step by step, so you can see it all come together in the next hour and a half-ish. It's a good time to come in. Yeah, whatever works for me. We'll see. I do like the idea of it growing. Again, new heights. I'll look up the, or I guess I can measure it because it's in the background there. But I wrote down the official height and weight and stuff like that, so I'll compare. Okay, moving right along here, I'll bring up the original again, even though I know you have the digital image on the screen there. I think it's nice to reference this sometimes. So here's our mountains that we're just adding, you can see just above here. I used a nice dark blue just as a base, and then an even darker blue to start to give some shadows to the mountains. I didn't want to concentrate too much on the mountains just because we have so many other cool fall things going on. But yeah, two colors we're using, just the base blue and then a darker blue to kind of shade in some areas and to kind of carve out the layers of the mountains too. You can see how some of them are in front of each other, and we got some almost like textures in here to show the surface of the mountain. It's not nice and smooth, it's nice and rocky and textured. So we'll do that. I'm gonna keep using my medium round brush, the same brush I was just using. I'm gonna go to my plate here. Oh, and I need a color. I'm gonna go to my plate and I'm going to mix together just plain blue with a tiny bit of black. Don't use a lot because this is our first color of two. I want to make a blue that's just a little dark and then one that's even darker. So for this first blue, medium round brush, using a big pile of blue and a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of black. Just to darken it a touch. So it's a little more navy, rather than the bright, bright phthalo blue that I have. And again, you might have a different blue. Maybe you think it's just a good blue to use to start. That's fine. You don't necessarily need to add some black. But I like black and the phthalo blue again to make it a little more kind of muted and navy colored. All right, and I'm just going to apply that to our mountains. I like to follow kind of the direction from the tip down for the mountains rather than going left and right. So you'll see me starting to use my brush in different directions here. So I'm just recarving out what I had, because I can see the outlines in the background. And then adding a nice thick layer just on top. Again, I like to go from the tip at the top, tip top, and down like this. Got a little dark, but I'll just kind of blend it out again. So again, keeping in mind we want a darker blue after this, right? So if you find it's a little dark already, you can change your color now and just kind of blend it around. You can even add a little white to it if you need to, or just again add a little extra blue to get it back to the original blue. The only time I'm really going horizontal is you can see right here where I'm trying to get a nice even horizon line where the water is meeting the land. I'm having trouble if I want to call it a horizon line, because it's not really the horizon, is it? It is without the mountains, but anyway, technicalities, technicalities. There, so just to even it all out, and then I can go back to doing my angled and upward strokes here. Yeah, thoughts on horizon line? Thoughts on calling it horizon line? I was sitting here doing nothing, having a drink, literally staring at the wall when it suddenly dawned on me, oh yeah! Yeah, I know, the Friday streams they're rare. I guess I should shout that out too for anybody either watching now and painting along, or if you're on YouTube watching the recorded version. Fridays are kind of a new idea. Sundays no longer work for me, and that's what the day of the week that I was doing pretty consistently before. But yeah, if there's any opinions about the Friday, if it doesn't work, does work, different day of the week that is better, or starting time, obviously everyone has different opinions on that being from different time zones, but I'm always open to hearing and just seeing what works for most people, and if it aligns with my schedule, then I'm happy to do that. But yeah, I assume weekends are best in general. Fridays are weekends. just for the general workforce. I know not everybody works standard 9 to 5. But yeah, whatever works best for everybody. Toot! I see you, Lucian. How dare you think the rules don't apply in YouTube comments? Throwing a yump in the comments. They're not allowed here, they're not allowed there. Who do you think you are? Appreciate your support though, thank you. Thank you for commenting, honestly. Even if it was a yump. If only Twitch emotes worked in the YouTube comments, that would be kind of fun, wouldn't it? Okay, get some exercise. Good for you, Jack Noodle. Keep getting jacked. I do too. Thank you! The mountain's boot. I like that. Rather than horizon line. We're gonna paint the mountain's boot. Almost done with this layer and then we can get some darker blues in there. I'm just running out of paint. Just gotta refill a bit. There we go. We'll kind of brush that all out here. My mountains are pretty pointy. I might kind of level them out a little bit, just comparing to my original painting. And that'll demonstrate how you can kind of fix them, I guess, as you go along, in case anyone else is wanting to do that. Very easy to do. So if you're in my case where you think they're a little too like triangle pointy, they're kind of like equilateral, maybe triangles with the angles and such. I want to make them a little like flatter rather than more pointed. So I'm just going to take the same color. I'm going to start at the same tip. I'm just going to make a little bit of a flatter line rather than more angled downwards. So I'll just expand this side. I'll expand the right-hand side to match. So kind of creating two new pizza slices in there. Yeah, I like the look of that better, personally. So I'll do the same thing with this one, make it a little flatter, just a little less pointy. There we go. And that's good for me. If you found yourself in the opposite situation where you felt like your mountains were a little flat and you want to point them more, you just have to expand the top a little bit. So you'd move the point a little higher, and then that way you have more room to angle quicker downwards, more of a abrupt angle down. So yeah, to widen, use the same tip and just add. To make it sharper, add your point a little higher up and then try again. Love Fridays. I get home early and can actually see. That's good to know, Marion. Yeah, see, yeah, Jamie, I work nights, so 3 AM, exactly. I know, it's so tough not being part of the regular work schedule, I feel you. Wouldn't that be funny? Maybe one day we can, honestly. Like, I'll just expect that, like, 1 or 2 people show up, but we do a 3 AM too. That would be really funny. Super late night, can't sleep, insomnia toot. I work nights toot. Just here for the chat. Too tired from raking leaves today. Here to add the YouTube version to do this. Yeah, exactly, Amory. Sorry, almost said Marion. I'm glad. And again, I'm glad there's still value in the recorded tutorials too. I did hear already some comments from people saying that, and that was really nice to see. Because when I post those, I obviously see like view counts and such, but it's hard. It's hard to really know how much they're being enjoyed or how much of an impact they're having just from a number. I like hearing from people directly, so that's been really helpful. All right, I have my base down, as you can see. Even while it's still wet, we can start to add our little shadows and textures. It'll actually be nice to be able to blend them in a little bit while also having some darker blues a little more prominent. So I'm going to keep using the same brush. I did wash it off, but that's not super necessary because we're just going to use a slightly different version of the same type of color. So now I'm mixing a little extra black into my blue-black mixture. So it's becoming quite dark. It's almost like there's a hint of blue in there, but mostly it just looks like a very deep dark color. Okay, loading that on my brush because again, we're working on a wet surface. So we might need a little more paint on our brush to kind of lay on top of the wet surface. And I like to use this color around the edges of my mountain. So I'm not really choosing a shadowed edge or a light edge. I just like to outline them a little bit to give them a little bit more of a pop. And it'll help with showing which mountains are kind of in front and which are behind. So what I'm doing here, for example, is I'm going to outline just the outside edge of the mountain, and then I'm going to choose which peak I want to come in front. I personally want this middle peak to be in front, or this middle mountain to be in front. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end the left-hand mountain's edge early here, right where it intersects with the other mountain. And instead I'll bring the edge of the foreground mountain down and over top of the other one, and that makes it look like it's in front. And again, you can choose whatever edge you want. It can be this mountain, that one, doesn't matter. You're just choosing one to kind of push in front, extending the edge down. You don't need to go all the way down. It can kind of end a little before the very bottom. That's fine, as long as you can see it intersecting and then continuing after. And then it looks like I chose the right-hand mountain again. So I'm going to extend this edge down again. So they're all kind of lined up. We got background, middle, foreground. Notes, notes, notes. We had chubby penguin sliding down a mountain. Maybe at the end, once I do all the main steps, we can goof off a bit. Sometimes I add chicken noodle to the paintings. Once I've got the edges all complete and the kind of like, you know, picking what edge is foreground, then you can just kind of continue using this color to add a little extra texture. So just using the very tip of the brush, a little less pressure and kind of wiggling down the mountain, either coming straight down, down close to the edge. And again, you might find a little bit of blending happening because the background is still a little wet, and I personally like that. That way you can see some of these more prominent edges, but then they kind of disappear and blend in with the other blue. But you can see how that's giving just a little extra texture here. If you want to go crazy with these mountains, you can add some like snow peaks to the top. You can add even more shades of blue to really start to choose where some highlights are going, where some shadows are going. Again, I didn't want the mountains to be the main focus of this painting, so that's why I just didn't work on them too much, but if you've got extra time and you want to really perfect them, you can really add lots and lots more stuff to these. And again, make sure that you're keeping in mind what's foreground. So as I'm adding texture to this mountain, I'm making sure I'm not overlapping or going past the next mountain's edge. You can see how these just end off when they reach that little outline that we created. Same with this one. Again, they end here. And same as the water, I just don't want to overdo it. I just want to make sure we're still seeing a lot of that original color pulling through, so I think that's about good there. Yeah, we'll keep her there. Again, even I have trouble with stopping sometimes. Oh no, I meant to turn those off. You guys want to see chicken noodle for a quick moment? For those on YouTube, I have fun little redemptions on Twitch for little things to happen. Someone wants to see the chicken on my head, so we'll do that very briefly. Even though I'm seriously teaching a painting. It's super serious in here. I can't be seen with a chicken on my head. Erin, I'm gonna mix these two colors. Shows the palette mountain. Beautiful Lucian. Is what soup? Where is soup? In here? Volcano plate soup? Delicious. Shows the palette. Yeah, we're literally painting the mountain using the mountain. These two colors. All of the colors. Okay, giving just a quick extra moment, and then I'm gonna go down to the pathway here. Noodle can stay on while we do the pathway. All right, let me bring the original up. So we got a couple things happening in the pathway, but for now, I'm just going to concentrate on this gray color in here. Don't worry about the green, the edge quite yet. We'll deal with all that later. This gray is, I would describe it as more of a warm gray color. In my other painting designs I was trying to make, I was having trouble with creating a pathway or a road color that I thought looked good, and I figured out it was because they were all very cool toned, they were very bright, they almost looked like unrealistic, but the second I warmed it up, I felt like it matched all the other colors a bit better and made it look a little more natural. So to make this gray, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix our classic two colors, our black and white, to make a gray, but then I'm going to add just a touch of yellow to this, and that'll make it a little warmer compared to a very cool tone, like brighter gray. I'll switch to my large flat brush again, just because it's a big area to cover. And of course, all my brushes, my brush sizes, again, they're all recommendations. If you feel like you're vibing with a certain brush, or you just know certain brushes are good for certain elements on your painting, again, do what you like. Use the brushes you like. I'm sure most brushes can be used for any of these steps. Okay, and I'm going to take the large flat brush, I'm going to mix together, as I said, white, black, and a tiny bit of yellow. Here we go, back to the plate mountain. So lots of white, I'm going to add a little black because I don't want my gray to be super, super dark. Just mixing like a light gray. And then to warm it up, as I said, just a tiny bit of yellow in there. So it should still look gray, you're not trying to make it into a completely different color, but you'll notice it's a little bit of a different kind of gray. It's a little warmer rather than something bright and cool toned. In my opinion, it almost looks more muted because it's warmer. And again, more natural with all the other stuff going on. Okay, that should be good. You can choose to leave a space for the grass or not. I'm just going to put the grass right on top, so that there's no need for me to worry about that middle space that we're going to section off later. Whee! So I'm just redoing those shapes that we started with, kind of cleaning up the edges that may have been a little messed up from the water. And again, you should be able to see that it covers right up. If you find your gray isn't covering something, maybe just add a little more paint to your paintbrush and use a little less pressure. Using less pressure will help the paint kind of glide onto the canvas a little bit better, rather than using more pressure and then you have a little bit extra transparency because you're kind of moving the paint around more. And if those two tips don't work, always just leaving it to dry for a couple minutes and then coming back with a second layer will help. So if you see any, again, little bits poking through, just give it like 10 minutes. Go back in with a little extra paint as a second layer, and that should fix up your issue. I like to do the edges first. It's kind of like the hard work first, in my opinion, and then I can just go nice and sloppy in here. In terms of brush direction, similar to the mountains, I'm kind of following the direction of the pathway. So again, rather than doing side to side, I'm kind of curving along with the pathway. You can see I'm kind of starting up here, bringing it down, just filling in as I go. Paint soup, volcano plate soup. Ugh. Very, very smooth soup on the top. No chunks. Well, we could add like little paint chip chunks as the vegetables. We need some nutrition in our soup. Gross. Just mixing a little more gray. That's a little dark. Little more, almost done. You can see if you want to be a little more like messy and sporadic when adding the paint, as I was doing like this, you can just smooth it out later and that'll fix all the little imperfections that you saw as a result. So if it's easier for you to really slop it on and not worry about your brush strokes, do that and then just finish by brushing on top while it's still a little wet. Smooth it out. Ta-da! Our pathway! I'm going to add one little detail to our pathway. That's going to be the edge here. You can see in the original on the screen we have a little bit of a darker gray edge just to really mark off the outside. The actual seawall has, yeah, a nice like raised, kind of like a stone wall a little bit, just very, very small. So instead of adding all of that detail, I just went with a little bit of a darker line to kind of showcase that little extra perimeter there. So whenever you're done with your base of gray here, you can just use the same, or no, I'm switching brushes rather, so sorry. I'm going to my medium round brush just because we're trying to get a thinner line. I'm mixing a little extra black into our black, white, yellow mixture, so I'm just making a darker warm gray. Then using the tip of the brush, I'm not going to go on the very edge. I'm actually going to leave a tiny edge of the light gray exposed as well. So this is kind of a line just close to the perimeter, but not quite all the way to the edge. Trying my best to achieve that anyway. And just following the curve all the way down. There we go. Again, I tried to really simplify it. I tried to make it almost look like the dark edge is the flat edge on the side, and then the light gray is the top edge of that little wall going around. It's just a very easy, simplified way to showcase that. Again, I'm sure you could go crazy with the amount of details. You can add the little stones in there, some extra texture. But this is good enough for me for now. I'll give a quick minute for both of those steps in case you're still kind of perfecting the pathway. I'm going to remove Noodle here just so he's not too much of a distraction. Let's keep him back here though for fun. He can peek in at what we're doing. Good boy. He's perfect right there. Just half his little face. So all the other path details, including the green going up the middle, all the nice leaves that you see added in, we'll add those later because we don't want to be messing around with the gray while it's still a little bit wet. It's going to create a lot of muddiness. We don't want to have a gray green and a gray yellow and a gray orange, so best we leave it to dry. If you're brand new to acrylic paints, one of the reasons I love using acrylics is because they dry so fast compared to oils and maybe gouache. I'm honestly not sure about gouache drying time. I would think a little more drying time though. Watercolors for sure. So yeah, it allows us to work on different elements, kind of leave elements alone for 5 to 10 minutes and then come back and add layers on top. Rather than trying to fix everything, I guess, as you're adding. That is one of the reasons I like my acrylics. Not a whole lot of waiting. And if you're super impatient, which is okay, people have used like little fans, little handheld fans to kind of dry things even quicker. I was recommending before starting the tutorial, giving your painting a little wave like this just to get some extra air on it if you need something to dry quicker. But I do design these tutorials in a way that we try not to have a whole lot of drying time, and that's why you see me working around the canvas. That way when I come back for details, all these other elements are already dry. There's a method to the madness for sure. Just deciding what's next here. Ugh, let's bring up the original again. Now that we've had a little extra time for the path, I can show this again here. All right, so I think next what we want to do is kind of this greenery area. It's kind of just like an amalgamation of different colors different like bushes, maybe some smaller trees in there, maybe some like reeds and sticks going on. Just lots of layers and lots of texture. Jamie says I'm a step behind, but I must be getting better at this because these are some of the clues. Hey, that's so great! Oh, especially with that nice pathway, I bet that's super satisfying. You're like, yes, all the way across. Good job. Yeah, as usual, you know, take your time. I can always repeat things. But yeah, I'll keep going here. Yeah, bush area, amalgamation of colors. So lots of different layers going on, which we kind of add all together so that they can blend a little bit, but also have their own little sections. So I started by doing some dark greens, especially closer to the bottom, closer to the pathway here. And then I started dotting some lighter greens on top so you get a couple different layers and a little bit more dimension in here rather than just big blob of green color. You might also see some of this kind of reddish brown in here. That was just to signify some darker leaves going on. I think I said earlier some kind of sticks or reeds maybe poking up, maybe some very bare, you know, twigs happening. And those are all just kind of added in amongst the green as well. So I tap some stuff in, I do some up and down motions as well. So yeah, you'll see a lot of things going on in here. Just know there is a fair amount, and we're just kind of putting it all together in a somewhat messy fashion. So not a lot of detail in here, just a few layers of things. So maybe I'll start with a nice like deep green. I'll work my way up a little bit. I think we want to add that reddish brown after that. And then as the final layer on top, it'll be the light green, just so we can get a nice light green right on top as a nice highlight on top of everything. How many times will I say on top? So I'm going to use my medium round brush for all of that. And as I said, I'll start with a nice deep dark green. So I might use 3 colors for this actually, as I believe I did in the original. I'm starting with yellow. I am using the medium round if I didn't say that before. Mixing some blue into the yellow, and that'll get you a very nice classic green. Blue and yellow mixed together. You might have a slightly different shade of green depending on how much yellow and blue you used, as well as depending on what blue you are using. I find the type of blue produces completely different greens sometimes when you mix it with a yellow. But I'm going for a darker green, so I'm going to slowly add a little extra blue in there. You can see with each little swatch of blue it gets a little darker. And if you want it even darker without making it more blue, you can add a touch of black, and that's what I did as well. Just a little touch. A little goes a long way with the black paint. That'll make it more like, not mossy, but maybe like olivey. Rather than making it more of a blue tone green. It just kind of darkens it up rather than continues to make it blue as well. So black can be a good tool for this. So again, that was yellow, blue, touch of black. I'm going to start just by tapping that on so we get lots of texture, again as if there's like bushes mixed in with leaves, mixed in with some indications of smaller trees. So I'm going straight at the canvas using the tip of my brush and just tapping. I hope the mic is picking that up, it's a nice noise. I'm starting this kind of closer to the edge of the pathway here, where it will be darkest because it's furthest away from the sun. It's kind of shaded by all the other plants around and all the other stuff around. You can see I'm just bringing it up a little bit. And there's really no harm in bringing it up even further because we'll just be going on top with our different colors anyway. So if you want to just even cover a lot of this with the dark green to start, you can. But I'm going to keep it maybe a little lower. I'm just trying to make sure it's really covering up that lower part at least. And then maybe I sprinkle it up here a bit. And you don't need to press super hard. I don't want you to ruin any brushes doing this. But I've been using these brushes in particular for many, many years. I've tapped a lot with them and they're still all okay. So just give them a little care. You don't need to squish and, you know, move it all in the canvas, just little taps. You can see I'm kind of spilling over the edge of the path. That's completely fine with me. I kind of like the look of the foliage, the grass, the bushes kind of almost leaking onto the pathway, you know, overlapping a bit rather than keeping it clean on this side. We already have one clean side, you know, we can mess up the other. Anyway, I love that comment, Jamie. It's really satisfying to see like direct improvement, you know, a specific element that you're like, I wasn't able to do that as much before, just even faster. You're just more comfortable with it. I think that's so, so cool. I still go through that even after doing this for so many years. There's still moments where I'm like, oh, a little easier this time. Okay, I'm still learning. Or just, yeah, the confidence level going into an element and being like, I know what to do now. I'll do it. Here we go. And then you do it and it looks great. Maybe I'll go a little higher, just to be sure. Again, there's never really any harm in putting extra paint on the canvas. Sometimes it can be a little tough if you're putting a dark color, then you want a super light color on top. In this case, we'll be okay. But otherwise, I'd say it's always a good idea just to go a little extra with whatever you're adding. That way you're not leaving any gaps and leaving any potential problems for later. Because it is annoying if you have a bunch of little gaps or canvas showing and you have to go back and fill in those tiny little spaces. Again, color matching can be annoying. So I always add a little more than what you think. I think it's generally a good rule of thumb. I think I might even want to darken this a bit more. Again, with acrylics, you can just, most paints, I guess, you can just go right on top again if you want to. I'm going to do that here. I'm just going to add a tiny bit more black to my green. And just splotch in a little more. And the more you do that, the more this is going to look more realistic, the more dimensions going to be added, the more shades you put on. So again, if you want to test that out a bit and do a bunch more shades of green as you go, feel free, but this is just one example what you can do. Just adding a darker one a little lower down, you can see how it's a little more blended looking now. Cute. Giving a quick minute just to work on the green there if you're still going. And then, as I said, I'm actually going to jump up here to do kind of the reddish brown first. Washing my brush in the meantime. Oh, we're an hour in. Look at that. We're making good progress. For those who have tuned into my toots before, you know it's a common thing for me to go a little, use a little more time than I estimate. So, you know, mark this moment where I say, wow, an hour in, we're doing well. When in another 2 hours, we're still finishing up. We will see. We will see. All right, I'll bring the original up again just to remind where we're going next. Oh. All right, so we've done this chunk here, minus of course the little colors on top, just this green chunk in here. Next, I'm going to move to this reddish brown that you kind of see dispersed, maybe a little behind. So it's going to look pretty prominent when we first add it on, but then we'll put this nice light green on top to kind of push it back again and blend it all in. All right? So yeah, these little sticks up here and just more tapping. So I'll use the same brush for all of that. That medium round brush, which I washed off. I'm going to mix together red with, again, a little bit of black. Black is really helping us out today with just darkening colors, obviously, but also kind of muting them to make them look a little more natural. So little bits of black into a red. You can see it kind of makes this brownish maroon color. It's kind of a bunch of colors. You could classify it as a lot of different ones is all. You could call it a red, you could call it even almost a purple in a way. Really bizarre, but a nice kind of natural dark red. So taking that color, I think I'll start with the sticks just because those are kind of on their own. So I'm going to use the very tip of the brush. You can see I'm just going to use this up and down motion. I like to move the brush in my fingers rather than moving my whole hand. This kind of gives a little bit more of a quick motion and it allows me to just graze the canvas rather than pressing down and moving like this. So here I go, I'm going to start anywhere in this open white area and kind of flick up into the sky. The other thing the flicking motion does is it allows the bristles to kind of float off of the canvas at the very end. So when you flick, you can see how the bristles come away naturally. If this were the canvas, my little hand here. So it gives you these really nice thin tips at the end if you're using just a little bit of pressure and this quick motion. And I'm flicking upwards, that's another good point. If I'm flicking downwards, my brush is going to be touching and then the point's going to be down there. So if you want the point up, you're going to flick upwards. So mainly I'm just trying to cover up, you know, that edge that may have formed when we were painting the sky. Just want to make sure we don't see the sky ending, you know? So I'm really trying to cover up that area first. And then once the kind of tips of the sticks are up there, then you can start to do your little tapping motion again, just to really thicken up the area and add more of this beautiful dark red color. And just like the green, even though the dark red is kind of up here, you can sprinkle it down here. That way, if there are any gaps, once we've added our other colors, you might see some little hints of red coming out, which is nice. It just adds all to the nice layers of all of these little bits of foliage. And again, I'm really trying to focus in on any white gaps. Oh, Cindy! Jamie, I know you're painting, but just letting you know you were gifted a subscription on Twitch. Thank you, Cindy. Yeah, for sticking with it. There you go. So if you happen to, again, no pressure, if you happen to find yourself back here in between now and the next two, you have access to some cute little emotes that I've made. Ad-free viewing if you've been getting hit with ads. I apologize, that'll no longer happen because you're subscribed now. Yahoo! Yeah, viewing is free, but unfortunately there are ads on Twitch that I can't turn off. They're just there. But that's what subscribing gets you. And a cute badge by your name, as you can see there. Yahoo! So just to be safe, I am actually going to bring this red all the way down here, just so I feel better about no gaps. Again, not super necessary because we still have some colors to add, but I feel good about completing this base layer here. So I'm going to just sprinkle the red all the way down, or you can even dip back into the green to kind of help the green come up to the red. Just tapping a little less as I go down as well so that it kind of sprinkles into the green. It's not a solid line all the way. Thanks again, Cindy. That's really sweet. That's what you get when you stick around to paint. A gifted subscription. Yeah, that's a lot of red, so maybe I'll dip back into my green just to dot that a little more. It's nice to have the work of covering the canvas done, then you can kind of play around without worrying about the gaps. Yeah, and again, it will probably look very dark right now, so if you're looking at yours and you're like, man, yeah, so dark compared to everything. The next step, or maybe, you know, a couple minutes, will be adding some nice light green on top, so that'll brighten up the whole thing a little bit better. Have a wonderful night, everyone. Erin, I love you. Oh, thank you! Like Shay, I learned a little bit more of you next time. Yay! Thanks so much, Cindy. Good night, good night. Have a good sleep. Sweet dreams. And have a good weekend too, because I won't see you on Sunday. I'll be back next week. We can chat then. I think. Oh, I hope. I'm a little nervous committing to Tuesday because I have a feeling I'm going to be uber stressed, but we'll see. I think I'm gonna be chaos mode of trying to get everything together for the painting launch, but I hope I can still be online even if it's to be silently co-working. That's fine. Thank you. Yes, thank you. I'll be sure to update when that happens. Hopefully with a nice photo of me at the finish line. We will see. Not me being towed away in an ambulance or something. I'm being dramatic. But thank you. Okay, yeah, I'll leave another quick minute for this in case anyone's still adding, but also just to give a little bit of drying time. Sometimes it's beneficial just to let the paint kind of sticky up a bit rather than needing to wait for it to dry completely. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna, the green's probably already dry. My red's gonna be kind of sticky, exactly. Oh, I'm leaving fingerprints. There we go, cover those up. Is there a peepo bye? Instead of a peepo hi, hey, hi, bye? I guess it's the same, isn't it? He's just waving. Maybe he waves the opposite way? Hi and bye? Peepo hey! I'm running a half marathon. I'm not quite at marathon stage. This year I wanted to do something exercise related, and in the past I've had trouble sticking to a gym routine. I actually had a great routine and then COVID hit and then goodbye gym routine, right? And I got frustrated with that and I was like, I really need a solution that isn't dependent on a gym. So I decided to take up running. I had run when I was very young, like grade 4 or 5 cross-country type stuff, but since then I haven't really run. So this year I made it a goal to do at least a race, and I did that in April. I did a 10K, and then I was so satisfied with that that I was like, let's push further. Let's do a half marathon, you crazy. And so that's what I'm doing on Sunday. Half marathon for context is 21K, so it's a little more than double 10, which is what I did in April. So a little nerve-wracking, but I'm trying not to stress too much about it. Again, I don't even have a goal for like a finish time. I just want to finish. That's it. So I'm hoping I can at least complete that. And if so, then I'll probably start trying for a marathon, but that won't be for a long time. I'll take a little break from running and then figure out another like race to be a part of, because that really motivates me, I've found, rather than just doing it on my own time. I like signing up for a day, that way it keeps me a little more accountable. And I think I do better when I'm with other people who are running, right? It's a little more motivating, so yeah, but that's Sunday. Scary. Interesting approach with the red under all the bushes. It makes sense. It's yeah, it's just kind of like little peaks of it, right? You know, I never really see a whole, maybe I do, you know, what are those called? Is it Japanese maples that are this nice red? Anyway, it's not common that I see just punch of red. It's always just kind of hidden underneath a little darker. And again, because this can pass for kind of a brown, I think it makes sense. But yeah, thank you. I think it's a good idea too. Or an interesting technique. I'm going to add our, at least final color for now in this area. I'm just mixing together a nice bright light green. So I'm taking that same medium round brush, I'm mixing together blue and yellow again separately. I'm not going to use that muddy green that we were using before. I want to create a fresh pile of green. I'm going to use more yellow this time, that way it stays a lot lighter. And my secret to getting a green that sticks rather than a transparent green is adding a little bit of white. I have said it before, I'll say it again. I find yellow paint very difficult to use sometimes. I feel like it's one of the most transparent colors that I have. And no matter how much yellow you cake on, I feel like you still see through it a little bit once it dries. So to counteract that, I find adding a little white for whatever reason really helps. And it might lighten your color just a touch, but it's totally worth it in my opinion to have the white in there so that you can get some clean strokes on top of a dark surface, which is what we're about to do. So yellow, a little bit of blue, a little bit of white, you get this nice light green. And you can totally tap it. but I personally went with more of a small dabs of green this time because I liked seeing more like individual leaves. Because they're right on top, they're a little closer to us, you might see a little more shape in these leaves in this color. Just lightening a little more still. So what I'm doing is I'm using the tip of the brush. I'm trying not to go directly at the canvas like I was doing when I was tapping. Instead, I kind of get a little more level to the canvas, so I kind of move my brush so it's a little more, yeah, kind of like flat and level. And then I use the tip of the brush and do a small stroke, so I kind of move the brush a little bit just so it leaves behind a little, somewhat of a leaf shape. It's kind of like a little blob, but when you stick a bunch of those little blobs together in the right area, they look like little leaves. So I'm adding those, you can see, on top of the red, kind of right in the middle of all this stuff going on. On top of the red, sprinkling down into the darker green. And that just, as I said, adds a nice bright layer on top and a little more detail to all the tapping we've done. Yeah, Japanese maples. Okay, good. I'm glad I got that right. I'm still new to the area, I'm still learning. But yeah, I do see them a lot around here. People really take their gardening seriously here, and it's because they can with the climate. For context, for those who don't know, I was in Ontario before British Columbia, and we have a very different climate there where a lot of things can't survive. So it's neat kind of seeing all the different foliage and greenery here. What people can do with their plants and gardens. Anyway, one more thing about the leaves. Of course, the harder you press, the bigger the leaf will be. So if you want some bigger shapes, just press a little harder when you stroke. And if you want smaller ones, you can just do a tiny little tap and a small little stroke. I do a little bit of both, so you get a nice variety in there. Taking an art class looking at Franklin Carmichael, group of 7. Never knew that many of their paintings had a base of orange. Oh, really? Kind of like a nice orange underpainting? I feel like I'm learning a little more about underpaintings as well, Anne-Marie. It's not something I usually do. But I'm trying to learn about how, yeah, certain colors can really affect the colors you put on top. Again, creating, like I said, kind of almost a glow underneath. I didn't know that either. That's very cool. I don't know all the group of 7 members either, so I did not recognize that name, but then you said group of 7 and I was like, oh, I know of them. I think it's Tom Thompson, the one I know. Anyway. And then, as I said, if you want to do a little tapping just to kind of blend a little more too, I think that looks nice as well. The tapping will, like I said, mix with whatever is a little wet still, so just keep that in mind. It might create a little bit of a muddy look, but not too much, I think. Again, all these greens can work together well. It's just more the red you want to be a little careful of. But if you tap lightly on a mostly dry surface, you'll be fine. See, I think that adds a nice little texture on top. It's almost like you're going back in and messing up the leaves a tiny bit so that they're not super, super clean. But you still see some indications. I'm always channeling Bob Ross. Oh, do they, Anne-Marie? Oh, my mistake. Left one behind in Toronto. I didn't know. I don't think I've ever seen them in Ontario. But that's good to know they can survive. Here I was thinking it was all special here. Maybe I just see more of them here, I'm not sure. After slamming my head into this client's book I've been editing, I think it's done. That's so good to hear. I didn't know you did that on top of everything else, Psycho. You got a lot going on in your life. I know you mentioned the reading and editing last stream. I admire that. I don't know how you manage your time, honestly, but good for you. And Emily Carr. I recently went to the Vancouver Art Gallery and there's a whole Emily Carr section. A small section, by the way. I was kind of disappointed. The area was called A Room for Emily Carr, and I was like, cool, cute, like, here's room 1, we'll go in other rooms. No, it was one room. It was one room. I was like, I want to see more. But the paintings are beautiful. Oh no, you can talk about whatever, Zyko. You can do whatever. I manage the things that are more toot mode. I just turn off like the scream redemptions. Wouldn't that be terrible? If we had like a door knock or scream redemption in the middle. So I cancel those, but conversation is fine. You can see your chat isn't even on the screen, so if I don't say it out loud, it's not even happening. Okay, I think I'm happy with the green. I might tap a tiny bit more, but again, I'll once again leave another minute or two in case anyone's still playing with this area. And as usual, if you need to go back into old colors, that's always encouraged too. If you feel like you've lost a color or you just want to add more of something. To demonstrate, I'll just add a little more dark green again. You can just keep layering and adding as you like, making it all work together. That's the road I want to drive. Looks great. Please don't drive on this road. There are civilians and bikers. But yes, there's great roads in Stanley Park. Please don't drive on the seawall. I'm sure that's not what you meant. But I feel like it's not the first time that's happened. I feel like cars have probably tried to do that. Maybe not this section, but closer to the beaches, I have seen, I think, rogue cars trying to get on some of these roads. Like, stop. They just don't know. Oh god. Yeah, this is people and bikes only. It's our little oasis away from the cars. The water near the mountain. Yes, Psycho. Only these types of comments allowed now. The mountain is refreshing and sparkling. Yeah, that's good, Psycho. I'm glad. As long as you're able to manage it all and still have some time for yourself. Which it seems like you do, so that's good. Okay, what's coming next? Next, we can go to the pathway, actually. All right, so while you're fiddling with the last little bits of this kind of bush area here, we can continue with the green and add it to the middle of our pathway. Again, because I was basing this on a real photo, a real, you know, area I've been to, I wanted to keep the accuracy of the green in the middle. If you want just a nice wide open road, maybe you want to say this isn't the seawall, you're like Ray and you say I want to, you know, drive on top of it, feel free to make it into a road with maybe like a little, you know, line in between to showcase the two sides where the cars go. I'm going to keep it a nice walking path. So I'm going to add a little greenery right in the middle here, kind of like a median from where the people and the bikes are separated. So I'll keep using the same paintbrush, the nice medium round brush. I'm dipping into, or I'm remaking, the dark green that we started with. So as a reminder, that was yellow, blue, and a little bit of black, just to keep it a little darker. And if you'd like, you can start by doing a quick little line just to kind of show yourself where you want to go. Otherwise, you can just tap it in right through the middle of the pathway. I'll show the line just so you can see the direction here. So do your best just to create a nice curved line right down the middle. So it curves with the road. Remember, it's not going to go straight or anything. It's going to curve along. You're just trying to keep it right in the middle. Slicing this all in half. And then if you want it to turn into a nice little kind of grassy median, you just kind of tap on top of that, get rid of the line, make it a little more of a messy grass patch. Tap, 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 tap. That keeps it a little more accurate to the inspo here. But yeah, maybe you have like a walking pathway you want to replicate that you're used to walking on. Who knows? And I am keeping with the same kind of theory of trying to keep things a little thinner up here and wider down here. So as I get further down, I'm going to make this median a little wider as it comes further down and closer to us. So try to tap a little lighter at the top to keep it a little more contained. I got a little messy up here, but that's okay. And then you can tap a little messier and kind of going back and forth, widening out this area as you get further down. Ta-da! I think I lost a little bit of the curve at the end. Let's try and get this further out. How about that? I think that looks good. So just the green for now. Again, we have some leaves that we want to add on top, but we're going to wait for these to dry to really do that. So again, still looking a little dark as a result. This will really brighten, especially at the end when we add our nice yellows, oranges, reds. Brighten the whole thing up. More fall vibes, please. We're not going into winter yet, hopefully. Although I hear a lot of you are getting snow already. No snow on the ground here. Maybe a week or two ago I saw tiny bits of snow on the tips here. I think that's already gone though. Pretty sure I haven't seen them since. I'm excited for winter personally. I know I'm a small group of people, but oh well. I like being cold. And the snow's pretty. People need to open their eyes to the beauty of snow, I think. Beauty of winter. But I get that it comes with the darkness as well. Ugh. Live in Wisconsin, it snowed enough to shovel. No way, that's a ton! I was just hearing, you said snow enough to shovel 2 days ago. I was more so hearing just like tiny blanket that melted within an hour. Dang. Yeah, you're in the thick of it then already. Had 2 inches in Aurelia 1 hour north of Toronto on Halloween night. Oh, of course. As is a Canadian tradition. Halloween night in the snow. Trying to fit a giant winter coat under your costumes. Oh, I'm well aware. Little marshmallow man walking down. Candy, please. I'm a princess, but I have a big winter coat on top. You can't tell. Wow, another few weeks I hope before I get that much. Yeah, that's what they told us. Oh, I'm sure. I do feel like all the the winter and summer seasons are getting larger, right? I feel like spring and fall is becoming shorter and shorter time frame. Our maximum and minimums are just expanding every single year. Temperature wise. Our hot days, our cold days, oh boy. Yeah, I do feel like fall was gone in the blink of an eye, personally. I could have used a little more fall. And still kind of here, but yeah, I know any day that could change. Okay, I think we're good to move on to the tree now. I feel like I've given enough time for that general area and down here. Ooh, let's bring this up and I can chat about it as I show it off here. All right. So for this tree, I'm gonna start with just a nice brown. First of all, I'll teach you how to mix brown because it's kind of a thing in itself, so take your time with mixing brown. We're gonna start by doing a nice big trunk, lots and lots of branches. At least that was the style of tree I wanted to go for. I wanted something very, very full, tons of branches for leaves to hang on to. If you want something simpler, you can totally do that as well, but I'll be spending some time adding, yeah, lots of little twigs and things. And then we're going to be tapping again. We're going to use that tapping technique to tap on all of our different colors. I actually do start with a little bit of a green because I liked the idea of some green still kind of hanging around on the tree. If you'd rather omit the green and just have fall vibe tree, then yes, skip the green. You can go with yellow, orange, and red, which I add on top after. I think in that order too. And I like going in that order because if you're going green, yellow, orange, red, each of those 2 colors, green and yellow, yellow, orange, orange, red, they all blend together very nicely. So that way, if we're adding yellow on top of our green and the green is still a little wet, it won't create like a very muddy color. It'll of course tone down the yellow a little bit, but it won't make like a brown or a gray or anything kind of yucky. So green to yellow and then yellow to orange and then orange to red. And then that way they can all live cohesively and happily together in their own kind of separate colors, but also mixing together. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, that's the technique we're using. I started the tutorial by also saying that I'll try my best to walk you through a little bit of the other tree that I displayed. I'll display it again in a moment once we get our trunk and branches on. But yeah, I will explain that as well as I'm adding this foliage to this tree. So let's start with our brown. I'm going to stick with the same brush I have, which is a nice medium round brush. And I'll give you a heads up with trees, you know, and with any element, feel free to switch brushes as you're using them. But with trees, I specifically shout it out because I feel like some people like using a certain brush for the trunk, a certain brush for the branches, a certain brush for twigs, you know, getting a smaller and smaller brush. So just feel free to do that at any time, you know? Don't stick with the one brush just because I'm using it. Switch it up if you need to. All right, here we go, mixing a brown. So as I was saying, brown is a little bit of a tricky color to mix. There's different ways to mix it actually. I have my own way of mixing it because I think it's easier than the other ways. I start by mixing red and yellow together. So again, I'm using my medium round brush, mixing red and yellow to make an orange. You should start to see an orange coming about here. Red and yellow, and I'm trying to use even amounts as well. So don't be tempted to add more yellow because I know that's the temptation to make like a brighter orange is adding lots of yellow, but instead I'm trying to just do equal amounts red and yellow. So it might look almost like a dark reddish orange as a result, but that's okay. And then to make it a brown, you're just going to add our trusty tiny little bit of black. And you might start to add it and go, whoa, 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 that doesn't look right, but keep mixing, get it all in there, and you should see a brown start to form. See how that looks a little more rusty, more like a brown rather than an orange? That was the result of the black. If you want to deepen it, add another touch of black or maybe even a little extra red to make it darker. And yeah, just fiddle around with those three colors. Again, I find the most popular thing to happen is people end up making a color that they refer to as like a puke color. It looks very yellow, almost green tinged. It's gross. It's not the brown that most people want. To counteract that, you just want to keep adding more red because the green kind of shows up with that extra yellow. So if you find that's happening to your brown, try a little extra red in there, and then you can even try a little black. Just avoid the yellow if you're getting the puke color. All right, so whatever brown you like. Again, it doesn't need to be my brown. It can be darker, lighter, whatever you like. Now I'm gonna lay down our tree. So I start my tree kind of in this top area here, just to the left of the pathway as it's starting to disappear. And I'm just going to start with a nice vertical line going up and down here. Not worrying about, you know, the thinness, how clean it is, just a nice line with my medium round brush. Foliage on the left looks great. Thank you, I'm glad. Especially glad because there's still a little more to add. I just find adding the nice leaves, like the yellows and oranges, really pops everything, so more to come, more to come. So yeah, starting with a line, it can be nice and thick as you can see. This is a nice big, thick, strong tree, so we don't need to worry about thin lines quite yet. I darkened my brown. I'm gonna redo it with a nice darker brown. There we go. And I'll start to clean up this trunk before we do our branches. So I'm just going to widen out the bottom a little bit. A good general rule of thumb for trees is to make sure they're widest at the bottom. And this will apply to branches too. You want to keep them widest at the start or the bottoms and then make them a little thinner as they either extend away from the tree or get further up, eventually leading to a nice tip. For this one though, we don't need to add a tip to the trunk. We're just going to kind of end it about halfway into the sky. We worry about the tips when we start to add the branches and twigs. The bottom of the trunk, if you want to get a little more detailed, you could kind of do a couple little brush strokes out, coming out kind of to the sides or down to make it look like it's kind of rooted. Like there's little roots here. But at the same time, we will be adding lots of leaves, and I tend to cover up the trunk with leaves, as you can see in the original. So even if it's just a like solid ending there with nothing specific, keep in mind we'll put some leaves on top, so that'll cover up whatever you have down there. Just gonna take a little more brown. Just want to clean up the edges a bit. It looks a little messy. Just pressing and stroking down or up. That's really a preference thing, by the way, either going bottom to top or top to bottom. So if you prefer top to bottom, feel free. I think generally I go bottom to top though. I might switch it up, I don't know. Okay, and then once that trunk is all kind of cleaned up, we can start to add some nice branches. So something I do with my brush before I go in with branches is I just kind of either brush it on my paint palette here to kind of either line up the bristles a bit better, or you can roll it to make sure your brush is coming to a nice point. Either way, you just want to have a little thin tip somehow at the end of your brush so that you can make some thin lines. If you start just by loading the paint in your brush and it's all messy and all the bristles are everywhere, it's going to be very tough to make a thin line with something looking like this, all fluffy and messy. So just take a moment to shape your brush before going in for your little details here. Even if that means washing it off like I did there to get rid of some paint first and then lightly brushing some on. All right, and then with all that prep, we can do some branches. I might even switch brushes because, like, switch same type, just different one. I think this one's a better quality one. Still a medium round, just a different version. Yeah, that's way better. Okay. So branches. I personally like to create branches by going up the trunk and then slowly kind of parting away from the trunk, rather than picking a spot and going straight out. I think that looks a little less natural. So for example, here I go. I've got my brown paint, got the tip of the brush. I'm using a light amount of pressure. I'm coming up and starting to slowly move to the right. Maybe I wiggle down or up a little bit. But point is, it's slowly parting away. Just like a natural branch would, right? It kind of starts at the trunk and slowly kind of separates itself. As I get to the end of the branch, I'm trying to reduce pressure to get a thinner and thinner line. And then if you remember the flicking technique from when we did this red kind of stick foliage area, you can use that same flicking technique for the end to make a nice thin little tip there. Hey Lynn! You're late. It's okay, don't worry. Welcome in. We're almost through this painting actually. We're just doing the nice tree and then we're going to add lots of red-orange leaves as well. Welcome in. You can see it all come together at the end here. Hope your Friday was good. Hope you're enjoying your evening. So this is one branch of many. Let's do a second one. Maybe I'll do a second one coming from the same spot just over to the left now. You can see I'm running out of paint at the end too. To avoid running out of paint, you can do a couple different things. You could switch to a bigger brush, which I know is not ideal for creating thin lines, but it is an option. The more bristles will hold more paint and will allow you to go further with your one stroke. I also find watering down the paint just a little bit helps a lot with that. So I don't want to make the paint so thin that it becomes transparent, but just dipping my brush quickly into the water, tapping it off, and then applying the paint will make the paint a little thinner and it'll make it glide a little further as a result. So let's test that now that I have the wet brown on here. I'll do another, maybe I'll do a branch going up further. So I'm gonna go up further, part away. Look how much further it's going. I'm gonna do the whole entire branch in one stroke. Wowee, my advice worked. Let's do another one over here. And we're just gonna keep adding. You're welcome to follow me branch for branch, you know, each and every one. Try and place it where you see me placing it, but that sounds kind of hard, so no pressure to do that. So overall instead, I would just add your branches wherever you want, thinking about just trying to fill up this entire area here. So you can see I'm bringing branches up, I'm bringing them over to the side on the right, over on the left, trying to cover this entire area, kind of making this big, you know, big space for where all the leaves will go. You can see the general shape of my tree once it's all done. It's very circular, very round. So I'm kind of looking at where my branches are going and the ends of the branches to make that nice kind of round shape of the tree. You can have the branches intersecting. There's no rule that says they need to be separated. And once you've added a couple bigger branches, you can use those to add other branches. So rather than doing a new branch every single time, you can start to just kind of split things using twigs, separating the branches a little bit more. And that's a nice easy way to fill up your remaining space as well. Was that a dog? Did I hear a bark? Big news if there is a dog. Oh my gosh. I hope somebody bought a dog. Start the revolution of pets in my apartment. Thank you. One more thing about branches. I think I mentioned before with the trunk here. But we want to make sure our branches always start a little wider and get thinner as they go along. So once again, what I'm doing for that is using a little extra pressure at the start. And as I float along and add my branch, I'm reducing pressure and then doing the little flick at the end to get that nice tip. With this tree design, I find the tips are still visible by the time we're done, so that's why I am trying to really be careful with getting a nice thin tip at the end. But if you plan on filling up your tree a little bit more, maybe the leaves start to cover up branches, you don't need to worry as much about the tips of the branches. You can still do this as practice, but just don't stress about it, okay? It'll all work out just fine. If you get a little botched branch here and there, we can just cover that with leaves. I'll show you that one when I cover it up, for example. Everything's fixable, everything can work together. It always works out. I love the painting. I'm glad, Lynn. Good, thank you. Yes, I've been having a good Friday. I've been looking forward to this toot because I haven't done one in a while. I was happy that I was able to post that video. And after this, I'll be back to prepping for my Cloud9 series release. There's still lots to do, including painting, if I can be honest. I still have one or two that I need to complete. So yeah, one thing at a time. It's gonna be a busy night, busy couple days, busy week. Chaos mode for me, you'll see. Okay, I'm gonna keep adding. I know it looks like this is already pretty full, but because of the style of tree, because I'm going to be seeing a little bit through the leaves, I want to make sure there's lots of branches that we can see. And just really showcasing like how many leaves we can add, because the more branches we have, you know, in theory, it's like the more leaves we can pile on top of them, the more areas they have to hang on to. So just to give them lots of space and lots of spots to cling on to, I want to get lots of little branches and twigs on here. So again, really take your time, especially at this point if you feel like you're falling a little behind or you just want to really, again, take your time with these. Feel free to do that. I've been doing this for a while, so I can do it a little quicker. Again, look at the tips of the branches here, how they all kind of make a nice big circle. Putting them all together, it's a nice circular area. Oh, thank you, Lynn. Love your Cloud9 series, it's beautiful. Thanks! I'm very proud of it. I'm excited. There's still more to show you guys. I can't believe it. I've been keeping some things a secret for a long time. Not just paintings I have other things you will see. I've been meaning to tease them a little bit more, honestly, and I haven't gotten to that, but next week I'm sure you'll see lots of little posts and pictures and stuff. That's the problem, I need to take pictures of everything. But not everything's done. It's a spinning wheel I have. Okay, almost there. I feel like we don't need too many more. It's almost like I want to look for big gaps in the sky, right? If I see a huge gap, then I'm like, let's cover that with a little bit of a branch. If I think this gap's a little big, let's stick a branch in there, you know? Just kind of like split it up, cut it up a bit. Going to screenshot the bear tree. Oh, thank you. Yeah, feel free. It's great looking. Thank you. Yeah, like I said, I think you don't necessarily need this amount of effort for the tree in the end, but it's just good for practice too. So if you have the time to try something like it, I would. And then if it ends up getting covered up, that's fine. But yeah, good practice, especially if you want to make like a spookier tree. When I think of spooky trees, I think of trees that are very bare, very like rickety like this. Lots of thin little branches that can creak and snap and scare you. So yeah, it is kind of like a Halloween-y looking tree without its leaves. I'll leave it there. I can't continue. I could, but I shouldn't. I'll let you look at this for a tiny bit. Oh, and actually, I will point out one more thing. Very minor detail, but it is there. Just like the mountains, if you want to add a little bit of texture or shading, you can add a little bit of a darker brown just to the trunk, you know? You don't need to go across every branch. Oh my gosh, please don't do that. You can add a little extra black to your brown mixture. Mine's already pretty dark, so you might not see it on mine, but just kind of stroking quickly, a little up and down, just to give, again, your trunk a little more texture and feel. Like you're making the bark and stuff, you know? Just a quick little up and down. It's nothing much. Minor, but still there. Love the tree. It's been so long I didn't watch. I know, it's because I've haven't done a whole lot, Lynn. I mean, the last live one I did was I think 4 months ago. Oh, you're out, Lynn? All good, all good. Oh, why isn't Peppa going? I think you need 2 peas, 3 peas in Peppa. You need double peas in the second set. Where is she? Yes. 3 peas total. P-E-P-P. There you go. You got it. I'm so glad you still enjoy that emote, Lynn. It's truly there for you. What a great clip. Hanging up. Alright, still giving some time, even if you're still working or maybe you're all done. You can just leave this for another minute just to dry as well. We want to make sure the brown does not interfere with our next couple steps here. Because we're adding all our bright colors and I want those to really shine and pop off. I love it. I see Peppa everywhere. I know, she's so popular. She's a hit. With all the age groups, apparently. Yeah, when you go shopping. Alright, so I'm gonna start filling up our tree. Again, I'll talk a little bit more about it if you need another extra minute or two with your branches. Let me show you again. I know I already went over this, but just in case. We're adding 4 different colors. We have green, yellow, orange, and red. I'm starting with green, so it's a little more pushed back in the distance. And then we're going to add in order yellow, orange, red. I do it in that order so that if any of the past layers are a little wet, the newest layer on top will blend a little nicer. Green and yellow blend nicely. Yellow, orange, orange, red, all blend nicely together. So that's the reason I do it in that order. If you're really taking your time and letting things dry, you can just do whatever order you want, to be honest. So I'm going to use my nice big brush for this because it's going to create bigger splotches as I tap. And I'm starting with our first color, which is green. You can use, I guess, the dark green we were using, maybe lighten it a tiny bit so it's not super, super dark, muddy looking. As a reminder, that was yellow, blue, and maybe a tiny bit of black in there if you want to get it a little darker. I need more blue, 1 second. My tree isn't great, but I gotta remember that it's a tree. Exactly, trees aren't perfect. They're all so different. If we really started to look at trees, I think you would decide like all trees are not perfect in real life too, exactly. Yeah, all the tips I give are things to kind of look out for. I think the most important is the width thing. As long as your branches are wider and then thinner, it's hard to go wrong with the tree in my opinion. I think it'll still look very tree-like. And then the splitting as well. I guess that's the other main thing, rather than doing right angles and quick little straight lines. Kind of slowly splitting away, lots of V shapes everywhere, I think is another good key. But you're right, they're always going to be different. This tree is different than the other one I made. It'll be different than all the others I make. What is the perfect tree? I don't even know. But yeah, good mindset, good mindset. All right, mixing my green, yellow, blue, a little bit of black. And before I go in with my first tap, I want to say a couple things. Because we're using a bigger brush, it's probably going to hold more paint, and that's going to increase the likelihood of like a very messy blotch rather than a nice stipply look like this. If you have a little too much paint or press too hard, you're gonna get bigger blotches like this. And that's okay, but it's not gonna give the look that I have in my original. We want something more like this that's a little more spaced apart, very stipply, so that you can still see through the leaves. This would be more so for the tree that I was showcasing a little earlier. Those bigger blotches that'll really cover up everything. So, you know, choose what you want, but just know if you want what I have here, it's going to be this more stipply look. So to achieve that look, as I said, we want less paint on the brush. So either just add less, or if you know, happen to cake it on, just tap it off a little bit on a paper towel beside you. Tap, 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 and then that way there's less. I also literally try and separate the brushes a bit because this is a flat brush and all the bristles are trying to stick all together in a nice flat line. I kind of just try and separate it a bit, either by using my fingers or just by tapping it again on a paper towel beside me to start to separate the bristles before they touch the canvas. Okay, so do a couple prep things like that. I know it seems like a lot of work, but it'll get easier as you go. You'll probably just do quick little motions and continue to tap. But yeah, that'll assure you have a nice stippled look, as I said. See here, it looks a little more spread apart as I tap. A little more transparent. And that means we will be stippling for a while, but again, worth it if you want the look that we have in the original. So yeah, the bristles are spread out. We're using a little bit of a lighter touch and less paint on the brush. I almost said about 5 different words there, not brush. So starting with green, I would say I add the least amount of green. It's just a little hint of color to poke through. I want to save lots of room for our yellow, orange, and red personally. Different types of trees have different branch styles. That's true too. Yeah, I didn't even really go over like straight branches versus these are a little kind of curvy and wiggly. I feel like you can get a completely different tree look if you keep the branches very, you know, straight up and down. Or not up and down, but just straight in general rather than curvy and flowy. Bonsais are so unique as well. I've painted a few bonsai trees and that's kind of a whole different direction. They kind of go out, out, out and then kind of curve up at the ends. Yeah, so true. Okay. So it looks super bare, but believe it or not, I think that's about the amount of green I want to add. Again, because I'm adding so much of the other yellows, oranges, reds. So I'll stop there for green, very minimal, and I can always go back and add more if I want, right? So keep that in mind too. Sometimes less is more, just in general, but also it's good because you can add later rather than trying to take away, which is always a little more difficult. I painted the rainbow Valentine's tree, I remember, and gave the warm colored half to my friend. That's so sweet! I read so many responses from people saying the same, or something similar, Jamie, where they either made it for a friend and gave it, or they painted it with a friend and then kept them separate, and I was like, I'm gonna cry, that's too sweet! Each person has a half. Those branches were also very thick, but it turned out really good. Yeah, exactly! And the design had more of like the thick leaves to go along as well. So with that one, it kind of matches in my opinion. And it had the very distinct heart shape too. So yeah, it works out in different situations. We don't need to worry so much, exactly. Gotta get more yellow here. Okay, I'm gonna start moving on to yellow. It's the exact same techniques, we're just using a different color. So I'll try and repeat myself as I go just for a second time, but just know there's nothing new technique-wise, just adding more of this color, I guess. For yellow, as I described before, I'm adding a little white to it, not necessarily to make it brighter, just to make it stick better. If you use, again, plain yellow, I would bet it's going to become so transparent that you can barely see it on top of the blues and the greens and everything. So white will help you. Mix some white into your yellow. I'm going to tap my brush off so there's not big blobs of paint there. The bristles are nice and separated. And then I'm going to go in and add. Look how bright! It's fall. Again, trying to tap lightly to get the more bristly look. If you tap harder, it'll become a little more blotchy. And really, again, the only difference, there's no technique difference, we're just going to be adding more yellow just to get it a little bit of a brighter tree. That is more of a personal preference thing though. If you like the green, you can keep lots of green, but I want it to be fall, so I'm putting lots of yellow, as I will with the oranges and reds. I guess something I didn't really point out as well is you can of course tap this color anywhere close to branches. You do not need to be going on top of a branch every time. In fact, I think that'll make it look a little too, like aligned. I don't know what a good word is for that. It just makes it look like everything's kind of marching together all in a lineup, and that's not really how the leaves go. They're all kind of piled on top of each other, at least when all the branches are intersecting, right? It looks like just a big pile of leaves. So tap in between the branches. You can tap a little outside of the branches just lightly as if the leaves are kind of barely hanging on, or even if they're like floating away, you know, that works out just fine. I'm sure you will not look at your painting and say, oh no, that leaf isn't touching a branch, that's not right. It's totally fine. Yeah, let them like float off a bit. And I like that too because it allows us to keep that nice round shape, but it doesn't look like a literal circle. If we start to tap, yeah, a couple a little outside, it kind of separates that circle a little bit, makes it a little more of a natural shape. Again, rather than a very solid outline that we're sticking to. So as I'm still stippling, yeah, I'll try my best to kind of talk about that other tree that I held up earlier, because I know when I was asking people what design they prefer, a lot of people said, hey, I love this design, but I like the tree from the other one. So if you like the tree from the other one, what I would do is I would use the technique we were using down here for these light green leaves. So just to jog everyone's memory, what I did for those is I used, instead of a big brush, I used the medium round brush. I loaded up the tip of my paintbrush with color, and then rather than going straight at the canvas, I went a little more, I'm forgetting this word, is it, no, parallel? I guess parallel to the canvas. It kind of, yeah, you're bringing your brush handle next to the canvas rather than straight at it. And then you're doing small brush strokes rather than tapping. And I would recommend, oh, let me have a look at that tree. Oh yes, so I would recommend starting with the green. You'll probably want to let it dry a little bit first, because then I do go in with red instead of the yellow. I do the darker colors first for that other tree. And then I do orange, and then I do yellow to top it all off. So just a little bit of a different color order, a little bit of a different leaf technique, and adding more, I guess, is the other tip. So rather than leaving the space like I am in this tree, you would be like covering every little inch with those little brush strokes like these. And that's really all you need to do to get that other tree. It's all the same colors, just a little bit of different order, different brush, different technique. If that interests you. Or if you want to just try that on a different painting too. Screenshot that other design that I held up earlier and give it a go if you want. Again, it's pretty. I just, the votes were a little more leaning to this one, but they were pretty split too. Okay, I think I'm good with my yellow. I'm trying to decide if I want more. I swear I just heard another bark. for context, my apartment does not allow pets, and there's no workaround like in Ontario, where you can just get a pet and just not be evicted. Here they will evict you, apparently. So I'm kind of hoping somebody in my building gets a pet and then more will follow. That would be really nice, because I want a pet. Okay, let's call the yellow done. I'm gonna move on to our orange. Again, take your time with each color. I'm just motoring along here so that I can get a cohesive video without too many breaks. Here we go, back to my plate. I'm just mixing an orange, so what I did is I grabbed a little red, mixed into a big pile of yellow. And again, I think I'm gonna add a little white to it, just to make sure it's not transparent. Tapping my brush off. And then tapping on the canvas. It's really starting to fill up now. And I keep encouraging you to take your time because I find with this like stippling effect, it can be very easy to be like, I'm just gonna, you know, rush through the rest of this, you know, you kind of get the idea of what you need to do and then you're like, all right, let's go. And that's when I find things get a little blobbier, you know, you start to forget to do the little prep things before you start to tap your brush. And it gets a little messy as a result, or at least just it doesn't give the same effect, right? It'll give something different. So again, just try and enjoy the process. It's part of painting, right? It's just trying to enjoy yourself. Hopefully it's not stressful the whole time. Hopefully you enjoy doing it and want to spend a little extra time, extra care with what you're doing. You got it all set up, you might as well take your time with it now. This is even pretty just without the red too, if I can be honest. The red will be nice to add, but these three colors are very nice together. I'm gonna do like one more once around with orange just to thicken it up a little bit more. Again, I like the transparency, but I want this pretty full as well. And then we'll go in with red for the last one. I'm literally here because I've been very anxious due to personal stuff. Oh yeah, and I need to relax. Well, I'm glad I can provide that for you. That makes you feel good that I did this then. As I said in my video, it's helping the others that drive me rather than my enjoyment from this. I obviously enjoy doing them. I wouldn't do these if I hated doing them. But they're not just for me. I wouldn't do them if I didn't think they were having some sort of a positive result on people, or yeah, giving them a little bit of an escape. So I'm really glad. I'm really glad, Jamie, that you made the time. Live especially too, but even if it's just time to watch the video over and disconnect a bit from those other things you got going on, I think that's so beneficial. Because that's how I feel too, like when I have everything set up, really get down to concentrating on it, oh man, it does so many good things for me. It feels so good to put time into. Because it's time into you. It's not just like time into a painting. It truly is time for you too. And that goes with any creative project, not just painting with acrylics specifically. Okay, I like that orange. I will move on to red now. Again, keep taking your time. Same brush, same techniques, just red paint. I'm not mixing the red with anything either. I'm using this very bright, just straight from the bottle red. I think they call it bright red. There we go. It's already bright and great. Tap it off, tap it on. You can see it is, I would say, the most vibrant. It really punches on there when you start to add the red, so maybe add a little less of this? I don't know, did I add less of the red? Hard to tell, hard to tell. As with anything, just again, keep taking your time with it, and yeah, take a moment here and there. Once you kind of have once over with some red, Maybe take a little moment to look at the whole tree, decide if you want to add more. I always recommend at certain stages to just lean back a bit. If you're in a chair, lean back. Stand up and walk away a little bit. See the painting from a distance, and that'll really help you decide these little tiny decisions you gotta make. Do I want to add more red? Well, see the whole thing together, see if you think it needs more red, rather than looking up close like this and continuing to add. Or taking a picture helps too, I always recommend that as well. Then you can see it in smaller scale, all kind of cohesively together. One other thing I'll mention too, just as I'm going, I should have said this at the start, but I'm kind of twisting my brush as I go, because especially if you're using a flat brush, right, even though the bristles are all separated, you might see them kind of lining up, kind of all in a distinct shape, 1, 2, 3, like you're stamping them, right? If you start to twist your brush each time you stamp, that's going to split those up a bit more, and it's not going to look more, or it's not going to look like a pattern or a stamp. They're just going to be a little more scattered and random. So yeah, taking your brush, I'll tap, I'll twist a little, I'll tap, I'll twist a little, tap, tap, and you can just kind of do that all in one motion here. Going a little left, a little right. You're still tapping, you're just twisting the brush so that, again, the lineups are kind of shifting around. The bristles, the lined up bristles. My words. Pretty close. I feel like my original still has some extra, so maybe what I'll do at this point, just as you're all still working on the tree, is I'll show how you can just go back and add more. There's really nothing to it. That's all you need to do is go back and add more. I'm gonna grab some yellow. Maybe it's mixed into an orange, that's okay too. Yeah, grab whatever color, go back in. As long as things aren't too wet, you can do this, I guess I should say. If you feel like you have blobs of color hanging around, and you're adding a color that might not mix well with that, I'd be a little more careful, or just give it some time to dry before going back in. But at this point, my green is probably very dry, and that's kind of the problem color, so if you're only messing around with some yellows and oranges and reds, you should be pretty safe to just go at any time. Just keep adding and going amongst those colors. Yeah, that turned orange. I want some yellow. Just to keep it nice and bright. Look at that. See, it's still transparent. We can still see spaces, but it's getting real full. Bob quote. Go out on a limb. It's so appropriate. We're painting little limbs. Go out on a limb. That's where the fruit is. Oh, Bob. And welcome, Robin. I didn't know that was you. I didn't notice that was you hitting the Bob quote. Welcome in. Hey, Charlene! Love the painting. Sorry I cannot paint. Oh, that's okay. It's all good. I know I'm doing kind of a different night of the week this time. I'm just trying out different nights because Sundays don't really work for me anymore. It's all good. As you know, this will be on YouTube. In fact, I'll probably upload this quicker than usual because I've got my little movie editor open from editing my YouTube video, so I'll just stick this in it and keep going at it. It's all set up ready for me to go anyway. I just got home from work. Oh, okay. Well, and you can even watch the VOD too, Charlene. I guess I'm saying YouTube, but you know, if you're able to navigate to this video on Twitch, you can just watch it back right now or whenever I end. It all works. Oh yeah, did you watch it? I hope you enjoyed. Seems like a lot of people are, and getting a lot of comments from people saying they learned a little more about me, and that makes me feel good. And they understand where I'm coming from, and that makes me feel good. So yeah, I hope you liked it too. Okay, I think I have enough leaves. Again, I have enough that it's completely covered in some spots, but I see some spots open, still see the branches. It's perfect for me. What you might want is something different, so yeah, add more, add less, whatever it is. I'll give you another minute or two with whatever you're deciding to do. Very happy. Yeah, my personal video, exactly. Yeah, I posted that today. Oh, thanks, Charlene. Yeah, and I know everyone will. That's why I said, like, maybe this video is unnecessary. I'm not implying that anyone would say, no, you can't do that, you know? I don't think that would ever happen. Everyone's very nice. But it was more just to be honest about the direction I want to go, and so people aren't, you know, wondering why I don't do certain things anymore, why I take time on tutorials anyway. Yeah, it's just a good explanation and brings people up to speed. Because I recognize that that's how I popped online and that's all I did was tutorials, so I think it makes sense that some people are like, where did those go, right? You know? It doesn't have to be a negative expectation. Sometimes it's just like, well, it makes sense. You were doing tutorials and now you're not, so... Just want to bring people up to speed as to why and what I'm doing otherwise. It's all good. It's all good. Positive video. Okay, while I'm giving an extra minute or two, I'll just show what we have left. I'll do a little comparison. Ooh, I could still make the tree bigger. Just I'm always trying to get it as close to my original as possible. It looks like I made this even wider. So if you feel like your tree's looking a little small compared to my original, just expand a couple branches out, just a little bit, and then you can tap a little more. Do it on the other side too. Wow, I went crazy with this guy. Look, he's expanding like, he's like over this other mountain here, I think. Dang. He big. So yeah, if you're feeling similar that you want to get a bigger tree, that's the way to do it. Just grab a little more brown, extend a couple out. You don't need to do every branch further, just a couple little twigs, and tap, tap, tap some leaves. But yeah, I was going to show this because I want to show what we have left. We just pretty much have our little dotted leaves on the bottom. We just want to sprinkle now. Looks good. Oh, you're off, Marion. Have a good weekend. You too, you too. I'll see you next week. Hopefully Tuesday, we'll see. I hope I can stick to that. And if not, Thursday for sure. Ah! Big day. Okay, and actually these next few steps are great because, again, for those who wanted to paint that other tree, this will really show you, I guess, the technique using those colors. It just won't be on a tree, it'll be on the ground instead. So you can kind of see my thoughts as we add those. My techniques as we add those. Okay, so yeah, let's, I'll get to these last few steps here. And then that'll allow some time for people to ask questions if they want. But yeah, let's get these last few little steps out. So once I'm done putting the leaves on the big tree here, I want to add some little sprinkly leaves that have fallen off. And I'd like to do those in more of the technique that we used for these light green leaves here. So what I'm going to do is I'll switch back to my medium round brush. By the way, I'm probably not using the tiny brush. I always shout out the very teeny tiny round brush at the start of the video because I wonder if people want it for details, but I usually don't use it. Feel free to use it whenever. But yeah, medium round brush for me. I'm starting with red paint this time, and the reason I like doing that is because it's a little bit darker than the oranges and yellows, so I like to keep the darker leaves kind of at the bottom, or not at the bottom, yeah, at the bottom of the piles, I mean, so behind everything. So starting with red allows us to get the red on, and then we'll pile orange on top, and then yellow on top. Alright, so just loading that onto the tip of my brush. And again, this will be the same technique as these light green leaves. So just kind of bringing the handle of the brush closer to the canvas and then doing small little brush strokes. Really tiny ones too. I would say even smaller than the green I was doing. Just like very lightly tapping, giving a little stroke and then releasing. So they're very like dot looking. They kind of look more like dots rather than leaves, just because they're so teeny tiny on the ground. And I really like loading up my brush with every 3 to 5 leaves, I would say. That way it keeps them nice and clean, nice and bright. If you start to try and do 10 to 20 leaves with just one reload of your brush, you might find the leaves start to get more transparent, more messy. So yeah, take your time with loading your brush up with each every few leaves. In terms of placement, you can see I'm really starting right below the tree where you would think they would fall the most, right below. And it helps cover my little trunk a bit, so it makes it look a little more, I guess, natural with all the other stuff around it, right? It's not just sticking out. It's now kind of buried a little bit. And, oh yes, and then I carry them, you can see, along the edge of the pathway, maybe as if they've gone onto the pathway, been kind of swept away. People have cleared them off a little bit, or they get caught, you know, in all the foliage over here. I think all of that makes sense. So just piling them a little extra in those areas. Maybe up here as well. Maybe some got stuck in the bushes. And then of course, we want some spilling onto the pathway. I think it would be unnatural if they were all super cleaned up, so I'll start by putting a bunch in the middle, but then kind of spilling out on the edges as well. Just kind of dotting a little here and there. Again, going nice and slow, seeing how it looks all together once I do a little once over, and then I can add more if I'd like. I love this part, just like dotting on, because it really allows you to see kind of moment by moment how it just gets more full and better with each tiny little dot. It all works together. It's very soothing in my opinion too. Once you kind of get the feel of the technique and what to do with your brush, you can just go with it. Not much thinking involved at this point, just doing. Maybe some have sprinkled over here. You can see I go over them just in case I don't like the shape. Sometimes the shape looks a little, like I said, kind of blotchy almost. So I'll reload my brush and do a fresh shape on top. Alright, couple in the middle here, middle of the road. I think that's good. Yeah, most of them on the edge, some scattered. And once you're happy with one color, or you can do a bunch of colors at once, feel free. I just think that's kind of chaotic. I do one at a time, so I'm good with red. I'll move on to orange. Yeah, and it's not just chaotic, but it means you gotta have all those colors ready on your palette, and that's something I don't do well. I just make the color as I need it. Okay, using orange. As a reminder how to mix orange, it was yellow mixed with a little red. And then as an extra color to help with transparency, I still would add a little white in there as well. Just because orange is made with a lot of yellow, right? So as a result, it might be a little transparent. So stick some white in there and that'll help make a nice bright, clean orange each time you put it on the canvas. Oh, that was a little extra yellow there. It's okay. And you could really blob these on. Like I kind of accidentally did it there. I had a lot of paint on my tip of the brush and it kind of came off in a little bit of a nice round looking blob. If you want some good texture on this painting, you could do that everywhere. You could like pile paint on and just tap with each individual leaf. It'll dry kind of raised up as well. Acrylic paint does dry that way, so if you have it, yeah, as a big raised blotch, it will dry that that height. That'd be really cool. You could like feel all the leaves as a result. Ooh. If I had the time, I would do it. So spending extra attention at the bottom of the tree, Extra attention to the edge of the pathway. And then doing a nice extra bit in the middles. And lightly scattering after all that. If I wanted to be extra detailed, I would be making tinier leaves further back because they are further away from us. Just having trouble doing that right now. I'm kind of making them all about the same size. But yeah, as an extra pro tip, you could start to be more detailed and really do tiny sprinkles of leaves in the back. Make them nice and small because they're further away from us. But yeah, I think the idea gets across either way. Do I want to add more? Just comparing to my original. You know, in my original, I feel like I really load the yellow on because it's the brightest, so maybe I'll trust that and I'll just say, okay, red and orange is good, and then I'll get into my yellow. The yellow pops so much more than these other two colors, so let's try that and see how that looks. Same brush, I just washed it off. I'm going to mix, oops, not blue. I want to mix white into my yellow. There's some there. Get a nice bright yellow going. And now I'm going to add those amongst all the other colors that I've already added. Same idea, same exact technique, same placements. Like the only difference is potentially adding more of this color, because as I said, it seems to pop the best. And so I want to add the most of it. And I stick to pretty much just those three colors, right? Red, orange, yellow. You could go crazy and make a nice golden yellow, or red orange versus regular orange, yellow orange, kind of the same as golden yellow. You could do a darker red if you wanted. So many other different colors you could be sticking in here. And again, I find the more colors and the more details like that you add, it just elevates the painting each time. More shading, more highlights, all of that good stuff. Okay, a little more up here. Trying to make them small, but yeah, see this would be when you bring in a little detail brush that I'm for some reason refusing to bring out. Yeah, just using a very teeny tiny bristled brush and doing the same technique. It'll just be a smaller tip of the brush you're using, and that'll produce a smaller leaf. Alright, just sprinkling a couple more in the middle of the pathway. The ones that have blown into the middle and aren't cleaned up yet. Just a sprinkle. Yeah, this yellow is just, oh, I love the yellow. wouldn't say it saves it, but it kind of does. It just brightens the whole thing. It makes it fall. Wouldn't be fall without the bright yellows, I think. But I could still add more. Oh, every time I compare it to the original, I'm like, it needs more. Do another quick once over with the yellow. You see me squinting, it's not because I have bad eyesight, I swear. Squinting helps me kind of, it's kind of the same as pulling back view-wise. I find squinting, it kind of helps you see just the bold colors, right? The main blotches of color, it like blurs everything together, right? And then you can see hints of color. And it helps me decide if I'm missing a certain color, if I need more of something. If I can't see it in my blur, I'm like, where is it? I need to add more of it. So that's why you might see me going, sometimes. It's not a face of disgust, it's not a face of I can't see. It's quite literally helping me make decisions. And there's no harm in adding leaves higher up too. Like you could throw some up here. In theory, maybe they've like fallen off the tree and got stuck in the bushes. And heck, maybe the bushes, you know, maybe their leaves are changing colors too. It's not just only for trees. So yeah, keep that in mind if you want to add some extra color in the little foliage area over here. I think yellow's a nice easy one to add. Because that's kind of next from green, right? Green will change to yellow, change to orange, change to red. Cute. I think I just want to add a couple more over here. Kind of right on this edge that we created. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Oh, and I guess I wasn't talking about that other tree. Just one more time in case anybody saw that other design and enjoyed the tree. Here it is here. So it would have been using the same techniques I was just using with these leaves. You're just putting them on a tree instead. Starting with some green if you want, then red. I would say I used mostly orange to cover up the entire thing. And then you can see yellow was added on top for an extra little bright punch. So yeah, that's the only difference, just using a medium round brush, using the tip, doing a small stroke rather than a tap tap. That'll give you a fuller tree, more defined leaves, and then you can even see I did the same thing as I did down here, just with more orange, I would say. Orange was kind of the main color here. This is a little more dispersed with everything. And again, feel free to use this design if you want to just practice using this, you know? If you like the idea of this layout, it's a lot of the same techniques, right? Similar look. Except the little lamppost and crow, I guess. But yeah, feel free to try this one out too if you like. I won't be doing an official step-by-step of this one, just because I feel like we have fall figured out for this this moment anyway. But yeah, feel free to use that design. That might be a fun challenge. I don't usually do that, just make designs and say, here you go. Usually I teach them. But yeah, maybe if you're looking to challenge yourself, that would be a fun idea. Figure it out, you know? Figure out the layout, figure out the design, use what you learned here, apply it to the other one. You can get two beautiful fall paintings. Love the colors. Thanks, that's what I love too. That was the whole reason I wanted to make one of these. I just loved the colors I was seeing. It's cool. I feel like when you don't go outside, when you don't see these things in real life, you start to be like, where are these colors even coming from? You know, like, are there reds like this in real life? Are there yellows like this in real life? There are! It's so cool to see when you see all the like brightest colors existing in nature. I think that's so neat. Versus thinking that everything's kind of muted or muddy looking. There's a lot of bright stuff to enjoy too. yeah, I saw like a beautiful like reddish pink glow to a tree the other day. I was like, oh my god, it's so pretty. Go outside, people. Go outside, enjoy your outdoors. Thank you, Anne-Marie. So with that, that completes it. I can't forget my final step is always to sign it, so I'll, ugh, that was stuck, sorry. I will do a quick little signature just to keep to that, that step. I'll use a yellow. Whatever signature you like. I'll do a little EB, Erin Bun. Oop. Ta-da! And the signature means you can't touch it anymore. That's the rule. You must be done. Use that as your excuse to say I'm good. Once it's signed, leave it alone. And the edges! I was doing the edges, I swear. No, not the top. Look it, look it, look it. Oh, I missed the mountains. I got the water though. That's funny, Robin. I was calling that out earlier and I was like, you know what? I need to acknowledge that I don't do the edges. I need to acknowledge that I don't follow my own advice. I do them eventually, just not when I should, just not when it's easiest to do them. I leave it to be hard later, and I like to punish myself with color matching later. It's a great time. Anyway, yeah, don't forget the edges. Sign your painting. Oh gosh, closing, what do I say? What do I say at the end of these? Thanks for joining me. I'm glad you're all still enjoying Toots. You may have heard me talking throughout this tutorial about a video I just posted. Check it out on YouTube. It's like a little artist update thing that I don't often do for YouTube. I think I have one other video on YouTube that isn't a tutorial. This is video number 2 that isn't a tutorial in 3.5 years. It's just explaining a little bit about where my head is at, my priority changes, my goals moving forward as an artiste, and yeah, what that means for tutorials. I guess quickly I'll say that means that tutorials are becoming less and less often, and yeah, I recognize that people still look for them, and I just want to be honest and say, don't expect too many of those from me anymore. They still happen, but kind of just on my own time, and when I become inspired by something, it's not something that I'm actively trying to do anymore. I feel like before I was really like working on getting designs together and scheduling these and whatnot. Now it's more of a, when I feel it, I do it. So just want to be honest about that. But regardless, I'm glad you're still enjoying these live tutorials that I put on, and the YouTube channel will always be there with all of my recorded tutorials. So yeah, that's all there for you to enjoy if that's what you're here for. But otherwise, feel free to watch the video to figure out what else I'm doing. I'm working on some personal art. I'm actually dropping a series of artistic works on Thursday, November 9th. I'm releasing a series of cloud paintings along with prints and merchandise that all follow the same theme. So if you're looking to have a look at what I do a little more like professionally art-wise, feel free to check that out. Maybe you'll like some designs. If it's not up your alley, that's totally fine, but that's all there. Thank you, Lucian, for those on Twitch here. You can have a little blurb to read about Cloud 9, the series. I'm accepting commission works now. Yeah, a lot of like more personal art updates in the video. Go watch the video. Go watch the video. I'm just repeating myself. Yeah, to bring you up to speed on what's going on. Otherwise, thanks for watching. If you want to share what you did today, I always still love to see what people did. Like I mentioned in my video, it's kind of the drive that keeps me going, is seeing that people enjoy these and are getting some sort of value out of these tutorials, so it helps for me to see those responses. So yeah, if you want to share what you did today, feel free to post that any social media and tag me. Otherwise, I recommend going to Facebook, visiting the Facebook event page that I made for this particular tutorial and posting it there. That way everyone else who participated can see and ooh and ah at your painting as well. And I don't know what else I say at the end of these anymore. I'm sure it's nothing super important. Just thank you. Just thank you again. Thank you again for watching and enjoying, and keep painting, and yeah. I'll wave goodbye to YouTube now. I'll still stay on Twitch for a minute or two longer. But this is my outro for YouTube. Okay, bye YouTube. Bye. I'll see you later. Bye.